We're officially live on Facebook as well. Cool. We had almost 60 people sign up for this. We've only got about 11 or 12 on here so far. Eric, I drove that car in 2013 when we won that event. And then I was the team captain the following year for our team for Auburn in 14. And so we probably interacted at the driver change. That's funny. It's a small world. Formula SAE is really awesome. I've considered, applying to be like to judge the business competition or something, because I'd love to go up there and do that. Steve's got a 2016 GT4. Cool. Angus is in a Formula Ford. Sweet. That's awesome. Angus, where have you raced so far this year? In the Formula Ford, is like a vintage Formula Ford, or are you in like one of the newer ones with a Honda motor? I know they still are FF, but they have a Honda power plant now too. Phil's got a GT4 and an E46 M3. So we got a couple of GT4 owners on here as well. Cool, vintage Formula Ford. E46 M3, Phil, I'm very familiar with those cars. I dailied one for a little while and also raced them quite frequently now, WRL and GP1, endurance racing. All right, folks, we're live on Facebook as well as on the webinar. So thanks for joining. The webinar kind of format is a little easier for me to kind of dig into and offer you guys some feedback. There's Ken Deja, he jumped on. Hey, Ken. Good to see you. I guess you're not at NCM this weekend with the NASA Great Lakes folks. Hey, everybody. So as we go through the webinar, if you're on the webinar here, ask your questions in the Q&A box. On Facebook, you can ask questions in the comments. I may or may not see them. I'm not going to be monitoring Facebook. We're just broadcasting it there to promote this information and get it in front of people and make sure they have resources available to them. Tim Conrad, Spec E46, awesome. Tim, I'm building a Spec E46 car as well. Well, not me, but I also own a shop business here in Birmingham, Alabama, and we are building Spec E46 car. We have some clients that are interested in racing with us. Spec E46 is awesome, great format. So we're going to jump into just a couple of real straightforward, simple things about Apex Pro, downloading the app, some of the basics, using the hardware. But this is mostly for me to answer your questions. And then I've got some things that I want to jump into on the data review side of things. I would call the fundamentals, which is why this webinar is a little different than what we've done in the past. We've called it like a new user webinar. So people that have not really used the product before, just kind of an orientation session. This is going to be a little more focused on what do I look for in the data, kind of at a high level. And I'm going to talk kind of about the mindset and the approach to it. And then I'm going to show you like, look for this. I'm also going to hit on the 3 most common driving issues that I see with track driving. So for those of you that are autocrossing or doing other forms of motorsports, this does apply and translate, but higher speeds on the racetrack create some different issues. In lower speed competition, you see some kind of flipping on its head, sometimes some totally different issues. So we're going to hit on the 3 most common driving related issues. And the reason I'm going to hit on those is because I'm not pointing fingers at anybody. I get to see a ton of data, right? So I do a lot of remote data review sessions where people send me their data and we do a meeting like this and I look into your data and provide you some insight and hopefully kind of a path forward to go faster. I do that quite a bit. So I get to look at a lot of data doing that. And then I also do private coaching where I try to get into people's heads and understand what their limitations are for going faster. So I get to see a very large sample size of data and driving and different drivers' approaches and mentalities. And so I've kind of refined the 3 most common issues that I see on the track. And I'm going to tell you what those are, how to identify them in the data, and then maybe a little hint as to how to fix those or how to change it going forward. So when you're looking at data, identification is the first step. Hey, this is going on. I'm doing this. I'm braking too early in this corner. I'm braking too little in this corner. I'm braking too hard. I'm turning in too early. Identify the problem, right? Analyzing its consistency, and then coming up with a remedy for the problem is coaching. That's a totally separate step. Awesome. Got a question from Cy Pritchard. Cy, can the other drivers on the Champ Car team use my Apex Pro with their own phone for testing if they download the app? Good question. That'll get us started off. And welcome John Flowers, 2008 911S. 911S, Ben Rogers on here has a 911S as well, but a 991 variant. And 08 would be a 997. My personal favorite 911. If I could buy a car tomorrow, it'd be a 997 GT3 RS. Probably the pumpkin one, orange with the black stripe down the side. Super, super cool. So the answer is yes. So your Apex Pro device, your Apex Pro hardware device, it's kind of like a Bluetooth speaker. Think of it that way. If you have the Apex Pro app, you'll be able to connect to it. So you'll just need to make sure that if anyone if you normally connect to it, sometimes it makes it easier if you just turn your Bluetooth off on your phone, and that way your phone's not trying to connect to it. When you own an Apex Pro device, it will prompt you when you connect to it in the app. It will say, do you want to remember this device? And if you hit yes, then every time your Bluetooth is on and in range and the Apex Pro is on, they're going to connect, which creates a lot of reliability. It means you connect to the device every time. It makes it simpler. But if you're trying to use it with other people, the fail-safe size to turn off your Bluetooth. So short answer is yes. So the first thing I want to jump into is the Apex Pro app is totally free to download. It is an iOS app only. We are working on solving that problem. Not making any promises to those of you with Android phones, but there will probably be a beta testing option here before too long for an Android version of the app. For right now, it's an iOS only application. So if you have an old iPad, old iPhone, or if you're one of the lucky folks out there that just happens to have an iPhone, you're in luck. So the app is free to download. You can create an account in the Apex Pro app. I'll show you guys all this when I share my screen to take a look at my app. And from there, you can connect to the Apex Pro device and select a track, log some data. But the important thing to remember is the Apex Pro app is free to download. So encourage your friends to download it, let them try your device, get some data that you can compare, and we'll start to talk through that. All right, that was the first thing I wanted to hit on. So let's take a look at that. And I know a lot of you have heard this spiel before. So if I'm hitting something that's super redundant for you, feel free to ask your questions in the Q&A box. Particularly if you have driving specific questions, I'm happy to answer stuff here. I just want to have a conversation going. I'm entertained as much by these as you guys are. And I like watching myself talk, let's be honest. All right. My wife would make so much fun of me if she heard me say that. So to download the Apex Pro app, just type Apex Pro into the App Store. You're going to see it appear here. And this is going to kind of give you a rundown of what all the Apex Pro app can do and its capabilities, so on and so forth. Leave us a review if you can. We have really good reviews, 4.9 star rating, and 104 people have rated us on the app, which is exceeding that of a lot of other apps in the space. So thank you very much for that. Let's look quickly at the Apex Pro app itself. My screen share is going to be just a bit behind. If you're joining in and you're not familiar with Apex Pro yet, all you have to do is create a profile. So you're going to have to create like a username and a password. It's going to register you for the app like any other app. You're able to add cars in your garage. You're able to do all of these other things that basically will enhance your app experience. So why would you create a profile? Why would you go through those processes? It's because it's going to make the app experience better for you. It's going to make it so that you can find other people in similar cars that go to the same tracks that you can compare data with. And that is where the real value, in my opinion, comes from. There's Bill Griffin on Instagram on my screen share. Bill driving a Ferrari, baller. The real value from data comes from the community aspect of being able to compare data with others. And so we'll talk a lot about that. So now you're looking at the home screen of the app where you see that it says Andrews Apex Pro. Tap there to create your profile. I'm not going to go into any detail on app functionality unless you guys have specific questions, because we have something called an Apex Pro Startup Guide. I am going to launch a poll that will ask you a question. Do you have the Apex Pro app hardware? So I just want to know, of the roughly 20 of you who are on here, we got 30 slackers that aren't joining us, or maybe they're actually working. I don't know. Do you own an Apex Pro device, or do you just have the app? And again, the app is free and it will work without the Apex Pro hardware. You can actually log lap times with your phone, mount it on your windshield, make sure that it has a good GPS signal, and you'll get lap times. Not really any more detailed analysis. So looking at the home screen of the app here, there's 3 different options. There's going to be Drive, which is where you go to log data. So if you're at the track this weekend, you're going to use that a lot. My Data is where you're going to review your data. And Crew View encompasses all of the community features, which I'll talk about real quick. Before we go into too much detail on the app, let's talk about the Apex Pro hardware. So this device, when you're using it, it has a GPS in the actual device. I thought I had a circuit board over here. When your phone connects to this, your phone is no longer the sensor for recording. The device is doing the recording. So you're going to get high resolution GPS and accelerometer data from this device. That's very important because your phone's GPS is not capable enough for logging track data. It will get lap times, but it might vary as much as 2 seconds from what a transponder would say. GPS data is usually going to be within 1/10 of a second of transponder data. And transponder data would be considered kind of the standard. Like if you race or do time trials, that's what the competition is going to be scored by. GPS data will be different. People ask that all the time. Why is my Apex Pro lap time 2/10 different than my transponder data? It's because GPS is a satellite that's put in your position somewhere on the face of the earth, and a transponder is a laser beam that you cross, right? So it's just 2 fundamentally different systems. It's never going to be the exact same, and it isn't for any GPS-based system, whether it's an Apex Pro product or someone else's product. Brandon, can I connect a Bluetooth external 10 hertz GPS device to the app for better resolution on the phone's built-in GPS? So right now, Brandon, no, you cannot. You can only connect the Apex Pro hardware. But I'm interested so this is $589. We make these ourselves. It has a LED display that's going to show you the grip potential and whether you're using all your car's grip or not. That's a totally different webinar. I have lots of content on that I'll share with you guys. And it'll show predictive lap timing as well on this display. So there's some added benefit to the actual Apex Pro unit. But there are several $200, sub $200, 10 hertz GPSs on the market that you can connect with some of the other apps in the space. If there's a lot of people out there that want that functionality, we can design our own 10 hertz GPS that doesn't have accelerometers or any sophistication like Apex Pro hardware does, that could get you lap times. I'm pretty sure we can make money making the device like that. And that's important because you got to make money to survive. All right. And feel free to keep those questions coming, guys. I love it. Thanks, Brandon. Hope all is well with you. Cool. Let's see. I'm going to stop sharing my screen real quick and want to share some resources with you guys. So first of all, it looks like everybody that answered my poll, 11 out of 11, has the Apex Pro hardware. Not everybody answered. That's okay, though. Won't hold it against you. So what I wanted to share with you guys, I'm going to drop this in the comments, is the Apex Pro Startup Guide. And if you've been on one of these webinars before, you've heard about it. This is an online course that will answer any functionality question that you have about the Apex Pro app. So if you're looking at the Apex Pro app on your phone right now and you're wondering how to do something, that online course will answer all of your questions. You do have to register for it. You just have to sign up with your name and your email address. It's free, but that will give you access to online tutorials. It will quiz you on different functionality in the app to help you retain some of the information that you digested. It gives you all the technical resources about why the hardware is important and what it does and all of these things. So long story short, in the comments, check out that driver mod course. That's very helpful. Another helpful resource, if you guys aren't already subscribing to our YouTube page, subscribe to Apex Pro on YouTube. I just dropped the link in there to our playlists because we do post content fairly regularly. And that's stuff that you're going to want to have access to because we'll do a lot of, share old webinars on there. Lots of app related tutorials, stuff that's a little simpler to digest than that startup guide. Make sure that you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. Okay, so I want to get into talking about data a little bit more because I think that's what you're all here. And please ask me your questions that are specific to Apex Pro or our product lineup, pricing, ordering anything like that, please ask those questions if you have them. But I want to talk about data. I am going to show you guys our phone mount product here because we've been selling phone mounts like crazy. Might just be a phone mount business now. They're selling like crazy and everyone seems to love them. But let's talk a little bit about the 3 most common driving issues and how to see them in your data. So at the beginning of the show, I kind of said, I see a lot of drivers and I get to look at a lot of data. I get to coach a lot of drivers. And I get asked a lot of times, what are the most common issues that you see? I also spend a lot of time reassuring drivers that you're not the only one that struggles with this, right? I struggled with this. My other clients struggle with this. Part of it is human nature. We all have the same response to a lot of things in the car. When something's coming at us at 100 plus miles an hour, it's physiological. So a lot of the responses that we have are like physiological, or our brain is oriented toward them. And if you've ingested any of Ross Bentley's content, you've heard the conversation about talent versus learned. Are skills just natural or are they learned? And the vast majority of the time we find that past experiences in life enable you to learn things more quickly, similar skills. So if you grew up riding BMX bikes or racing motocross or something where your body is moving through space at a rapid rate of speed and your vision has to adjust to it, and you have to dissect, placing the motorcycle on the trail or going over a jump on the BMX bike. If you have to do all that stuff, your body is more prepared to adapt to driving on the racetrack. Whereas if you come from a background that doesn't have any of that stuff, let's say that you've, been really big into computers and gaming and spent a lot of time, playing video games and doing that kind of stuff, and no time doing any of this, maybe even played a lot of simulator games, but no real world experience. Sometimes there's even a bigger gap there because your body just can't adapt as quickly to moving at a high rate of speed. So there's all sorts of experiences in your past that are going to allow you to adapt to driving quickly, faster than someone else or at a different rate than someone else. And that's usually the difference between talent and someone that is perceived not to have talent, is almost always tied to past experiences. So that's kind of high level. So why do I say that? I say that because these 3 things we're going to talk about usually are the result of a perceived fear or a perceived risk that may or may not actually exist. It's just your brain convincing your body that this is too fast, I'm scared, and so I respond in a certain way, and this is what it looks like. So we want to identify those things in the data because there's some strategies you can implement to fix them. We got a question from John Flowers. I have the older hardware, except for predictive lap time, does it basically have the functionality as the newer unit? John, all the functionality that you have, so the Gen 2 does everything that your Gen 1 does, but the Gen 2 adds a couple of things. It adds predictive lap timing on the display. It has a new grip model. So now the Apex Pro lights are more relevant on the straightaways. You're going to see less red lights on the straights. It's not perfect. It still models the car's grip potential in the braking zone in the corner most effectively. And then lastly, it streams real-time telemetry. So the Gen 2 unit actually sends data to CrewView so you can see like a speed trace or a long G trace coming off the car in real time. So those are all of the benefits. There's some more practical benefits, John. It's a different design. So the base plate is actually different on the bottom of the unit. That's for a few reasons. One, we couldn't fit the Gen 1 base plate with the way we package the battery in this unit. But 2, we also offset the pins. Instead of them being parallel, they're offset diagonally, and that creates a much stronger connection to the base plate. So it's much less likely that if you're in a crash or something, your Apex Pro comes off. There's a different battery in this device that lasts a lot longer. There is a light that indicates whether or not it's being charged or not, and it's a USB-C charging port. So to answer your question, John, there's incremental improvements across the board. The big improvement is telemetry streaming and the ability to see predicted time on the LEDs. And you can get a discount for returning your Gen 1. So we've actually took in hundreds of Gen 1 units last year in exchange for a discount for folks to buy a Gen 2. And I've refurbed all those, not myself, our team here refurbed those, and they were sent out to some various folks to use as demos. Our dealers are using them to put in people's cars at different events. And we actually resold some refurbished Gen 1 units. Great question. Cool. Hopefully that gets you to where you're going. So I'm gonna cast my screen again and continue to talk about these 3 common driving errors. And for those of you that have done any work with me in person or have been on our webinars before, some of these things will sound very familiar. Hopefully I'm saying it in a way that's maybe a little different, that helps make sense and is meaningful to you. So from the home screen, I'm just going to pull up a data session. I'm going to pull up one of my own data sessions so that I pick on myself and I'm not picking on anyone else when we look at data. But to access where we want to review our data, you're obviously going to tap data right here. Then you're going to see the sessions view, which is where you can click into different data sessions. So you'll see that they're organized by the date. You can actually organize them by the date that they were saved on your phone. So if someone sent you a session, that's the date that you received it on your phone. The run date was when you logged it on the racetrack, and the track obviously organizes it by track alphabetically. Cool. I usually use save date or track. Now I'm going to click into one of my sessions from Barber Motorsports Park, and the screen share is a little laggy behind what I'm actually doing on my phone. So as you're looking at it, just kind of acknowledge that. Cool. So this is what we see when we first look at the data session. We get this overhead GPS satellite view. I would definitely recommend, as you start looking at data, spend most of your time on this screen because it communicates in terms that are easy to understand. There's no graphs, there's no numbers really. It's just a view of the car's position on the track. This is the way that you should start looking at data to start to understand what is it I'm looking at, what am I looking for, what are some of my driving deficiencies I need to work on. Important things to know on this screen, you can move this around just like it's Google Maps. It's actually Apple Maps. You can move these icons around to get some more space. And then something that's very important to know is this toggle in the middle will change the data that's being displayed on the racetrack. I typically like to start by looking at longitudinal G, long G, because that's going to show us a very intuitive view. Green is accelerating, red is hard braking, orange is a little less hard, yellow is like a coast or like a really, really soft brake in most cases, or minor acceleration. So this view makes a lot of sense to me. This is how I would recommend starting to look at your data. So let's talk about those 3 driving issues. The first one is going to be what I would call the lift and coast, which many of you might be familiar with. It's when drivers are cruising down the straightaway at wide open throttle, a lot of times in big horsepower cars, but not always, sometimes in slow cars. And your foot goes from wide open throttle to like a lift off the throttle, and then you go to the brake. Now, what I want to share with you is not as comfortable as saying that. What I want to share with you is make sure that you're not doing this. It's very easy to say, I don't do that. And you do. And you know how I know you do? Because everybody does it. It's what we all do. And it's because it's physiological. It's not something that's wrong with you. It's not a mistake that you're making. It is literally your brain going, I'm going fast. I need to brake up there. I'm going to prepare to brake. I'm coming off the gas. I know I need to slow down soon. I'm coming off the gas. That's what your brain is telling your foot. What you have to tell your foot is something you have to communicate to it differently. You have to say, oh, I'm gonna stay wide open throttle until I get to that certain point where I'm looking right now. That's how you prevent it. Now let's talk about how you identify it. How do you know that you're doing it? So one easy way without looking at data is if you have a GoPro or your iPhone filming you from behind and you can see your pedals. Not easy to do, especially in street cars, because you've got kind of a tight pedal box and there's a lot of like dash and covering, so it's hard to see your feet. So it's going to be easier to find it in the data in most street cars. Sometimes in race cars, like a stock car or a touring car that doesn't have any interior, it's going to be easier to see the pedals, and then you'll actually see your foot creeping off the gas. That's one way. That's not perfect because it's very hard to tell sometimes in a video that you're actually coming off the gas like 1% of the time. So what we want to look at is the data. The easy way to do this is to look at long G on this page that I'm looking at right now and go into an area where you see a hard braking zone, and Barber is going to be turn 5, and look at the beginning of the braking zone. I'm going to circle that for you. Look at where you transition to brakes. You'll notice there's going to be, so like there's weight transfer that has to happen. You've got the weight on the rear tires, wide open throttle, and then you go to hard braking, the weight in the car goes like that. The load transfers. So your long G is not going to be, it's not going to be immediate. You're not going to go from, you know, positive acceleration to threshold braking in an instant, right? It's going to happen as the load transfers, and the quicker the load transfers in the car, meaning the quicker you are off the gas on the brake, or maybe the higher spring rate the car has, the more downforce it has, the more of a race car it is, the quicker the load's going to transfer. Street cars are a little slower, right? What we want to look at on this map is very broad and high level. It's not, I'm not going to tell you anything specific. What I see right now, what I have circled, that is a good example because that's very normal for a street-based car to see what looks like a little coast before you get into the threshold braking. Does that make sense? You see green, yellow, orange, red, but it's a very compressed area, right? It's this little area right here. What I'll tell you from all the data that I've looked at is on a street car, and this again, this is my own driving, so of course I'm going to say it's good, but that's a joke. In a street car, it's very, very hard to transition from wide open throttle to braking quicker than this. Right? It's very difficult. Another good way to tell if you're doing this is the shape of this speed trace right here that you see. See where the little car is moving? I'm sliding my finger along this speed versus distance trace in the middle of the page. And I'm going to stop the car right before the crest of this big braking zone. So another way to tell is the top of this speed trace sharp or is it round? So I'll show you a bad example, what it would look like if I was coasting majorly before I braked. This would look like it would be round like this. It's not a great example. I'm not an artist, especially not with zoom tools. It would look like this. It would be like a curve. If you see that in your data, that's a big obvious coast. Usually it's less pronounced. Usually it's like a little curve at the top. And then you'll see a lot of yellow and orange right here, a lot more than you see on my data. If you see that, you know that you're coasting before you brake. And the reason why that's incredibly important to identify is one, it's free lap time. Stay wide open throttle until you brake, absolutely free, right? Take it. But also it does not respect the weight transfer that you want to achieve for maximum deceleration and for balance in the car to slowly creep off the gas. So if all the weight's on the rear tires back here and you slowly creep off that gas pedal, that kind of moves the load, shifts it towards the front, right? It like stabilizes the car. So what ends up happening is the delta and weight transfer, the change from that wide open throttle weight transfer all over the rear tires to hard braking has now been minimized. Now you're pushing on a smaller lever to compress the front tires, right? Because you're like this as opposed to like this. So if you coast before you brake, you will not achieve the maximum deceleration of the car into a threshold braking. So turn 5 at Barber, turn 10A at Road Atlanta, turn 1 at VIR, turn 1 at Watkins Glen, braking zone, even that corner is pretty fast. Turn 3 at Road America, turn 5 at Road America, turn Canada Corner at Road America. Any hard, turn 1 at Coda, turn 12 at Coda. Any hard braking zone, turn 1 at turn 2 at NCM, somewhere like that. If you're creeping off the gas and then slamming on the brakes, you're not fully taking advantage of the car's ability to stop quickly. There are times when you don't want that rate of weight transfer to be quickly, but I'd make the argument that you always want to get to the maximum amount of braking you're going to apply for that corner immediately. Usually when you notice something like this, it's a trend. It's consistent across several corners. So look at the shape of that speed trace. look at what we're looking at on the long G on the track map right now. And I'm telling you that there's people on this webinar right now, and you're probably telling me like, hey, Andrew, that's great advice, very cool, whatever, blah, 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 but I don't do that. We all do it at some point, right? I still find myself doing that from time to time. And I've been doing this for almost 12 years and raced at a professional level for 3 years. I still do it from time to time. It's physiological. You have to constantly remind yourself not to do that. So I'd make the case that a high-level professional driver, the guys racing in Saudi Arabia this weekend in Formula One, they have the same physiological tendency, but they fix that mistake very quickly. If they lift and coast more than they need to at any point, they can fix it. They notice it subconsciously and fix it immediately. That's the only difference between them and you. You just might not notice it as quickly. That's all it is. We got a question. Hey, Stephen, you say my session screen does not show the arrow to get back to all the sessions, nor the other icons at the top of your screen. How do I fix this? Stephen, you probably see like a white bar across the top of your screen, I'm guessing. You can respond in the chat and tell me if that's what you see. But basically, I think the long story short is that's an Apple bug that I think the way to fix it is to log out of your account on Apex Pro and log back in, or turn off your phone and turn it back on, or make sure that you don't need a new software update for your phone. Try those 3 things, and one of those will help. So a couple of app updates ago, Apple updated something with their UI. And when we opened our app, like I just opened it one day right after that app update, the white bar across the top of the app was white, or the bar across the top of the app where you see like back, home, was white, and you couldn't see the buttons that you wanted to click. Stephen, they're still there. So just click where that back button is and it'll still be there, but it's obscured. This was the case across the board with any app that used the same formatting tool that we do. So Apple ended up fixing it in a subsequent update, I believe. So look for a software update on your phone, log out of your account on Apex Pro and log back in, and or turn off your phone. Before I go on to the next most common driving issue and how to identify it in your data, I will say that turning off your phone, this is a very broad general piece of advice, but turning off your phone, like powering it down all the way once or twice a week, is really helpful to keep everything up to date on your phone and to make sure that all your apps are functioning properly. Because what happens is when you leave your phone on all the time and you open up apps and you close out apps and you do all this stuff, that little processing chip on your phone's like running like 1,000,000 miles per hour, right? And they're really capable, but you only have so much computing power. And what happens is all the data that's being cached in all your web browsers, there's a lot of activity for the RAM on the device. And until you shut the device off and let it reboot, there's just certain things that'll happen. So with Apex Pro, as an example, and it's like if you have a bug in any app, turn off your phone, turn it back on. With Apex Pro, there was a bug that we kept seeing from customers that would say, hey, my video is not saving. I'm a Lap Timer Plus subscriber, which we'll talk about. I'm recording video and I get this error message intermittently that says video not saved. What's going on? And I'm going, I've tested this 1,000,000 times. I've never had that problem, ever, not once. Somehow, after trying a whole bunch of stuff, this was Kim Coffee. I don't know if Kim's on here. I think she registered, but we turned off the phone, turned it back on, never had that issue again. So there was just something where that the RAM was occupied on the phone, the processor was busy, right? It's a little microchip. It can only do so much. Shut it off, let it reboot. I'm telling you, the IT solution that fixes everything. Cool, just checking the chat box. Ken's wondering, can I have a USB cord plugged in between the Apex Pro and car while driving? Yes. Yes, you absolutely can, Ken. There's the charging port has like a, I don't know what you call the chip. We put a chip on there that basically moderates the power that's going into the device, so it won't hurt it if it's being charged while you're driving. With the Gen 2, you really won't need to. Like, it'll last a really freaking long time. It'll probably run for 8 hours fairly consistently, especially if you turn it on and off. Stephen, cool, just got the white bar. Try all those things. One of those 3 things will fix it. I don't know which one, but I'd check for the software update first. Then try powering off your phone, then try logging out and logging back in on the Apex Pro, and one of those will do it. All right. So most common driving error and how to identify it. Look at long G. You'll notice also on your Apex Pro, if you're braking in the braking zone, like if you're looking at your video, you're watching your data, if you're touching the brake pedal and there's a bunch of red lights on the Apex Pro right at the beginning for any more than like a second, you're probably coasting. You're probably not transitioning to hard brake fast enough. You're not the only one that has that problem. Everybody, it's physiological. Everybody deals with that issue. Yeah, that's coast before you brake. We've all dealt with it. The second most common thing, and another way to do that is to reprogram your brain, right? To fix it on the street, transition off the gas on the brake very quickly. Every single time you ever do it, come off the gas and on the brake very quickly. That doesn't mean release the gas pedal really fast and hit the brake really hard. That just means the time where you're not touching a pedal, right? Minimize it, and that'll teach your brain that that's how you brake. Okay, second most common driving issue that I see. We'll go back, we'll go to a fast corner. All right. Treating fast corners like they're slow corners. Probably the second most common thing that I see. And I'm really referring to fast, novice, and intermediate level drivers and above. If it's your first track day or first 5 track days, there's a lot more fundamental stuff that you should be working on. The coasting thing applies to you. This one is a little more for someone who's getting confident, feeling good, tires are sliding a little bit, seeing some green on the Apex Pro. That's who we're talking to here. Also, if you're an HPD instructor, you spend time with students, this is really valuable information to convey, particularly that coasting piece. That's really easy, low-hanging fruit. If you take your Apex Pro and throw it in your student's car and you see a big curve on the top of the speed trace everywhere, that's a really good visualization tool. Some people respond really well to visualizing stuff and just going like, hey, you see that graph? It's curved. It needs to be like this. And they'll be like, oh, that might help. So I'm trying to also give instructors resources because I think that's something that we do that's a little unique. This certainly applies, especially to teaching drivers that are a little quicker than just your sit in the passenger seat for novice students. This is guys that are in your Porsche club, BMW club, NASA, SCCA group, whatever, that are getting a little bit quicker and need some advice, and you're maybe a little more senior in that organization. Treat fast corners like fast corners, not slow corners. And I'll define that and talk about what I mean by that. Keep asking those questions if you have them. And guys, if you're watching on Facebook Live, I haven't looked at the comments on Facebook. I apologize. This is just to help spread the gospel on Facebook. So what I mean by that is we're taught early on in HPDE, right? Brake hard in a straight line, release the brake as we turn. Trail braking, right? That's what we call trail braking. The act of releasing the brake maybe a little bit past the turn-in point. Trail braking is almost universal, right? Like you always apply the brake fairly quickly and maybe hard in certain places, and you release it fairly slowly and softly to moderate the transfer of the load off the front tires to achieve the balance that you want into the corner. Can we all agree on that? The release of the brake is used to balance the car in a way that allows it to enter the corner or exit the corner. It achieves the balance that you want. The reason slow corners and fast corners are a little different is because in slow corners, we don't have the inertia working with us to do that weight transfer. So we usually have a late end of braking point in a slow corner. So like turn 5 at Barber is this tight, kind of 180-degree switchback, and you'll see on long G, I'm releasing the brake right here. Like that's where that yellow part of the data is. It's like right there. So I'm well past the turn-in point before I'm off the brake pedal, right? In this corner, turn 12 right here, I'm releasing the brake pedal about right here, right? Which is like a car length past the turn-in point. And I can tell that because I'm basically, if I tap right there, I'm barely decelerating right there. That's negative 0.3. Now, normally I would say that that's still braking, but I know that it's not because this car's got a lot of downforce. I'm going 100 miles an hour. So turning in a downforce car off the brake, car's going to decelerate like crazy. right? So that's what we're seeing right there. So slow speed corners, brake release is closer to the apex. Fast corners, it's going to be closer to the turning point. That's all I'm trying to say. But what I see very, very, very often from drivers that are like intermediate level looking to get faster, or even really advanced drivers who might be the fastest guy in their local group, is they're trailing off the brake. Their end of braking point, the release of the brake, is very close to the apex in a very high speed corner. The reason that's bad is because it's manipulating the balance in the wrong way. You're putting too much grip on the front tires too long into the corner, and you're going to create an oversteer balance in the car. So in most cases, what you're doing is falsely approaching the limit of the car. You're going to create an oversteer situation because of your brake release tendency in that fast corner. When if you release the brake sooner and maybe even went back to throttle for that fast corner, the car is going to be more balanced and you're going to carry way more speed, and it's going to feel less sketchy, safer. You're creating the balance that you want in the car. So what I would look for is, this is very, very broad in general. When there's a wide radius corner, so turn 1 at Road Atlanta, turn 12 at Barber, which is this one right here, turn like anything at Watkins Glen, the S's at VIR, the S's at Road Atlanta, turn 5 at NCM. We're talking turn 1 at Sebring, the S's at Coda, the high-speed triple apex right-hander at Coda. Let's see, Laguna Seca, turn 5 and turn 6. I'm trying to think of big name tracks. Road America, the Carousel and the Kink. High-speed corners, you want to establish the load over the rear tires. So again, I'm probably telling you something you've heard before that you're aware of, but I want you to be able to measure it and see if you're actually doing it. So what I would do is find one of those corners that I mentioned in your Apex Pro data, go to this long G channel, and if you see like hard threshold braking before that fast corner, you're probably overslowing. 90% of the time you're overslowing. If you get even close to -1G of deceleration in a corner where the minimum speed is close to 100 miles per hour, you're usually decelerating too quickly, right? You're braking too hard. Even in a fast car coming from 150 miles an hour to 100 miles per hour, if you're in a GT3 at Mosport, not everybody knows Mosport, so maybe I need a better. Yeah, we use Mosport. Turn 8 at Mosport, super high speed, fast right-hander after a mega back straightaway. You're probably going to go in a 992 GT3, brand new 911. You're probably going to go from 158, 160 miles an hour to an apex speed of probably 115 to 120 miles per hour. So you need to kill 40 miles per hour. If you hit that brake pedal like that in a GT3 at that speed with those big carbon ceramics, you've already overslowed. So point being, going into a fast corner, you're going to look for about -0.5 to -0.7 longitudinal G at the most. You want to be off the brakes well before the apex. Many times you want to be back on the gas pedal. So let's play through this corner right here. I'm decelerating at a max of -0.5. Right? I just tapped the lap. That's how I see that. That's where I'm achieving my max braking. And I'm immediately coming off the brake pedal, right? To the point where I'm probably hovering over the brake pedal right here, right? So I'm going like this. That's about how long I'm on the brake pedal right here. I go gas, 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 like that. That's it. Super soft release. That allows me to carry 102 miles per hour at the slowest part of this corner. Most people's data that I look at in faster cars, this is an E46 M3 with a little bit of aero. I see guys in GT2s, or I'm sorry, GT3s, probably GT2s as well, that have not quite as much aero, but way more tire, way better suspension geometry, doing 90 miles an hour here, right? I'm 12 miles an hour faster, right? And it's not because I'm doing anything revolutionary. I'm just treating it like a fast corner. Slow early, achieve balance in the car, don't trail in the brake, right? A 911, a GT3 will do 100 miles an hour right there. Let's see, we got some comments in the chat. Tim, enlighten me on Matt Park's water bottle example. I'd love to hear it. The water bottle example. Let me know in the chat, guys. Is that making sense? I don't want this falling on deaf ears. What I'm trying to get to is approach fast corners like fast corners. look at your data. If you see red on that longitudinal G before turn 5 at NCM, turn 12 at Barber, turn 1 at Road Atlanta, in most situations you're braking too hard. Now I know that's hard because we always want to brake as hard and not as hard, as late as possible to carry high speed on the straightaway. But you have to think of it as a compromise, right? I can brake super late and I have to brake a little bit harder to slow enough to make the corner. Or I can brake a little bit earlier and a little bit less and roll more speed into the corner. Usually the solution for flowing more speed through the fast corners, the solution for going faster is to slow earlier and slow less and carry more speed. So brake earlier, brake softer, carry more speed. In fast corners, the distance from the turn-in point to the apex can sometimes be really big because it's big and long radius. That's usually a much bigger distance than you can carry the speed by braking later. So try softening up your brake application in fast corners. Does that make sense? Again, you might be aware of this, but what I'm asking you to do is go look at your data and see if you have red longitudinal G before a fast corner. And how do you know if it's fast corner? It's got a big open radius. Brainerd International Raceway, turn 2, bends on here. You don't brake hard before turn 2, right? You go a little touch of the brake or just to release the gas pedal, right? A lot of corners at BIR is real high speed. Brainerd, you got to be lift off the gas, right? If you're in a super fast Trans Am car with no downforce or whatever, you might like touch the brake there, right? But most of those corners are just going to lift off the throttle. If you don't treat those corners at BIR like fast corners, you're in trouble. A lot of people don't have experience with tracks that have that high speed of corners. So this can be harder advice to apply. But I see so many people overslow in turn 12 at Barber. You can go close to 100 miles an hour in a lot of cars in an MX-5, NCMX-5 on 200 tread wear tires with like old 200 tread wear tires. My min speed there was like 97, right? Like most street cars will do 95 miles an hour there. Most cars with just a little bit of downforce will do over 100 miles per hour there. Tim says, Matt Park demonstrates weight transfer with a partially full water bottle. Soft release means less upsetting the car. That's interesting. So like put water in a transparent water bottle and move it around and see how it moves and try to keep it moving less for a fast corner. Tim, turn 5 at NCM, turn 16 at NCM, turn 1 at Mid-Ohio, turn 11 or whatever it's called at Mid-Ohio. Trying to think tracks that you drive, probably several corners at Pit Race. Those are all examples of high-speed corners. So of all the things I look at in data, this is the number 2 thing that I see people do that's preventing them from going as fast as they want to. And usually what they're saying is, I'm just not comfortable there. I just don't feel comfortable going faster there. And what usually drivers are actually saying, like when I look at their data, is I'm creating instability in the car by braking too much and releasing the brake too late. And I'm going 100 miles an hour and it's really sketchy. The solution is slow earlier, slow less. And if less sketchy, you can carry more speed. Cool. We'll take a commercial break right here in the middle. So I mentioned phone mounts. If you don't have one of these already and you're mounting your phone in your car, check out our website and look at the Apex Pro Motorsports phone mount, because we have sold hundreds of these in 2022 so far. This is the Motorsports phone mount. It's specifically designed to clamp your phone very aggressively, but also give you a lot of freedom. The biggest competitor to this would be the Ram X mount. You'll see why this is better when you buy one. They're only $60. It's got the same suction base that we make for the Apex Pro, or we buy for the Apex Pro suction base if you use that for your Apex Pro device. This is a 5-pound braking strength mount. This is a very, very good way to suction up your mount to your phone to the windshield. I'll post a link to these. Phil says, turn 10 at the Glen. Don't even lift, just breathe. Absolutely, Phil. There's a lot of corners like that out there. So if you're an instructor, and this, I have a feeling that a lot of folks that we're talking to here instruct others in an HPDE setting. This is great advice to impart on them, but even more powerful, if you know how to see what I just talked about in the Apex Pro app, you can tell them with absolute certainty. You can say with absolute certainty, hey, we're overslowing this fast corner and we're upsetting the balance in the car. And I can see that in the data. If you can say that, it makes a huge difference, right? It gives you a whole nother resource and way to communicate with somebody. Forgive me, I'm finding the link to the Motorsports phone mount, but we've sold so many of these recently that I just want to share with you guys because they're super popular and people love them. Gotten some really, really good feedback. I do think it's the phone mount solution for the motorsports space. That's what we're trying to make it. I'm gonna dump this right here. They're $59. Check it out. Share it with your friends. All right, let's talk about the last driving error that I see. A common driving error that I see. Cool, Phil. Yeah, they're excellent mounts. My wife, I've used one in my street car before, and my wife's like, every time she has to mess with it, she's like, "Why is this thing so intense? It's like way too aggressive." And I'm like, "Well, it's for the racetrack. It's not for mounting your phone in your car." I mean, it is, but it's just overkill, right? You can put one of those little magnets in your phone. I have like a little quad lock mount for my car. This is like hardcore. You can clamp it down. It's not going anywhere. It's a really, really good suction base. Very, very well made. We designed it specifically for this application. So these three driving issues, they're getting a little more advanced, each one. So lift and coast, everybody does it. Super applicable to your novice students. Look in your own data, make sure you're not doing it, come up with a strategy to fix it. Treating fast corners like slow corners, also exceptionally common amongst everybody. The last one is also exceptionally common amongst everybody, but finding it and defining it is a little more difficult, and that is a lack of entry speed. So the last broad driving issue that we'll talk about is not entering the corner with enough speed. The reason this is a problem is, one, it's the hardest thing to get right. It's super hard to carry the right amount of entry speed in the corner. But the reason it's important is because the balance of the car is very important on entry. It affects your exit, it affects everything else. And if you go back to throttle too soon and have to lift off the throttle, that's a massive loss in time, right? And it also upsets the balance of the car. So many, many times, like a lot of HPD accidents, you know, that you see a lot of people that hit the wall in the track day setting is going back to like big horsepower car. They go back to throttle too soon and they have that really fast rearward rate transfer, rear end steps out, they spin, they don't counter steer quickly enough, or they have little Porsche PDK hands. All you folks with GT4s and GT3s, that stability control doesn't require you to counter steer as much as you need to because it watches steering angle, uses the brakes to minimize the slip in the car, right? If you have to counter steer this much to save it in a car without PSM, in a Porsche, all you have to do is go like that, right? And it trains your brain that this is what I do to catch a slide, when in reality, you need that, and it doesn't hurt you until you get it really wrong, and then it hurts you really bad. So stability control, it's a great tool, and it'll teach you where the limit of the car is, but you also have to respect that you have to know what it's manipulating, and it's watching steering angle, throttle position, and has a yaw rate sensor, and it's using the brakes to minimize that yaw. So if you don't counter steer enough, it can be a problem. The problem is that with it on, if you counter steer too much, then the PSM gets confused and everything just gets kind of sloppy. So for those of you driving GT3s and GT4s, just be aware of that. You know, watch some videos. Ross Bentley has a great article about, or a great book, I think, about driving modern high performance cars and using those types of tools. So very common error, right? Back to throttle too soon. To Corvettes, Mustangs, very common in these cars. You even see it in Miatas all the time, right? Commit to power way too soon because your entry speed was too slow. If your entry speed's too slow, you can go back to power earlier than you could if your entry speed was proper. And then you're back to power too soon, you create understeer, you're going to run off the edge of the track, so you have to get off the throttle, and now all the weight goes back to the front tires, car goes wherever those front tires are pointing. Sometimes that's a spin, sometimes that's a wall, sometimes it's just a whoops. But let's talk about that lack of entry speed problem and how to solve it, and maybe how to analyze it as well. My favorite tool for analyzing entry speed is going to be these the Apex Pro lights. What you want to look for when you're analyzing entry speed in the Apex Pro lights is, do I see more than one, we'll just use that as a general tool, more than one red light from the turn-in point to the apex for any amount of time, right? And I mean any amount of time is longer than instantaneously. So what I'll do, like in turn 5, if I'm going, I think there's more speed there on the entry, right? I got 2 red lights now. I'm at the turn-in point. I've got 1 red light down to the apex, 1 red light, 2 red lights. Now I'm exiting. So if I were to look at that, I would say, you know what? I'm pretty close to the edge of the friction circle there. And then I would tap the arrow right here and go over to the friction circle page. And I would see where my little dot on the friction circle is. Am I right at the edge or am I inside of the edge? So it's those 2 things. Are there red lights there? I saw one red light, so I'm probably pretty close. And then I'm going to go to the friction circle page and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go like this. Like, yeah, I don't think there's a whole lot left there. I'm right at that. That's actually the farthest out point on my friction circle in a corner like that, right? And I can look at these lat and long G numbers up here, and I can see like what kind of G load am I pulling through there, right? Right now I'm at negative 1.1 lateral and negative 0.5 longitudinal. That's a lot of combined G. That's a lot, right? There ain't nothing left there. That's right at the limit of the tire. So I'm doing 2 things there. Are there any number of sustained red LEDs on the Apex Pro? If there are, go to your friction circle, and what you'll see is the dot will be like somewhere in this range, right? Somewhere right in the middle, right? Notice on this friction circle how we don't see very many dots in these interior spaces. That's pretty universal at most tracks. If you see dots in those interior regions, there's probably a corner where you're significantly underdriving the car, right? So again, I don't know that I have like a bad example area. I think I overslowed this corner a little bit. Yeah. So here's a good example. Turn 7 at Barber, I probably overslowed a couple miles an hour. The Apex device is really sensitive. If you overslow 2 or 3 miles per hour, you're going to see it on the lights. So what I'm looking at here is past the turn-in point, do I have any sustained number of Apex Pro lights? I get into the meat of the corner and I don't. But just past turn-in, I've got like 4 red LEDs, right? So I can be pretty confident the tire has a little more to give me there. Sorry, the screen share is so far behind. Now, when I leave the data at that point and I go over to the friction circle, I'm going to corroborate my story. So now I'm going, ooh, I got some red lights. Is there more speed there? When I go to the friction circle, look at this. My dot is just a little interior of other places. So like what I would say here is that this dot could actually be somewhere in this region, right? So that's telling me there's a little more grip, a little more speed I could carry in that corner. Now, I don't know how, is that 2 more miles per hour? Is that 5 more miles per hour? I don't know. I can tell you it's probably not 2, right? Because my combined load there is still very significant. I'm still cornering at 0.84 G and decelerating at negative 0.1. That's not a coast, but that's you saw in turn 5. The car will take more combined load, so I'm definitely giving up a little bit there, but not a ton. The other thing to think about too is the geometry of the corner. If you're maximizing the grip all the way through one corner, you need to make sure that doesn't hurt you on your exit. So in this particular corner, this is an entry speed corner. My exit isn't until further down the track at the bottom of the hill right here. So in this particular corner, I could carry more speed. So I would say that there's a little bit more speed there. I might be able to brake a little bit later, right? And maybe a little harder. Look how little I brake here, right? Very, very soft. So to summarize on that, look at those Apex Pro lights, and what you're looking for is there any sustained number of red lights past the turn-in point? If there is, look at the friction circle, make sure that you're not right at the edge of your friction circle, and then go, okay, I can carry more entry speed. Knowing is step 1. Now you know you can carry more entry speed. What do you have to do then? Come up with a plan. Either it's going to be brake later and trail in more if it's a slow corner. If it's a fast corner, it might be going back to throttle. If it's a fast corner as well, it might just be like a softer brake and roll a little more speed. It might be that you could actually turn the car more. You could add more lateral load and point the car towards the exit a little more aggressively sooner in the corner. There's all sorts of solutions. That's just a taste. All right, guys, thanks for attending my TED Talk. And thanks for some great questions. I hope our Facebook audience enjoyed it as well. Had a question pop up here. John, one thing that's limited my use of analysis tools is it's hard to use on an iPhone 8, particularly when comparing laps. Can you talk about how to look at it on a MacBook, iMac, or TV? Yeah, John, the answer is pretty basic there. App can be on your iPad and you can airdrop data. Or what I do is I get an HDMI cord with a lightning to HDMI connector and plug it into my TV. Big screen. That's real simple. In the future, we definitely are circling the option of an Apex Pro app for a computer, which I think would be great. I'd love to be able to share data straight from my computer instead of from my phone when I'm doing these as well. So that's a selfish intention. But John, that's the simplest way to do that. Just get an HDMI cable you probably have laying around the house, order you a Lightning, which is that plug on your iPhone, Lightning to HDMI adapter. And then you'll literally just go to that HDMI input, HDMI 1, and you'll see the data up here. Ennis, there is a recording. I'll email you guys a recording later. Sai said, is it possible to get your lap we've been reviewing to overlay it? Yes, actually, Sai, let me show you something that's even better than me sending you my data. So that's a very common question is, how do I know if I'm leaving something on the table, right? And usually the easiest way to figure that out is to compare with someone else. Back to creating an account. The reason you want to create an account that has your car and your tires and all that stuff on it is because then when you go to the crew view portion of the app, the community aspect of the app, you're going to be able to see other people who are submitting data and how quickly they're going. So, Sai, what I would do in your case, let's say, I want some data to compare to from Barber or from Atlanta Motorsports Park or from Thunderhill or wherever. Go to crew view from the home screen. And this is going to change when we launch the Android app, but we're going to go to crew view. And then you'll see this trophy icon in the top right. That's the crew view leaderboard. That's the community page. You're going to see live users pop up on the racetrack right here. Could use my test track. That's the office test track. I'm going to tap the little trophy icon. Now what you're going to see is the community page. And this is where people have submitted their data. So if you just scroll through this, you'll see all of the public records of data. Now, the way you do this is if you tap your profile, I tap Andrew's Apex Pro, it says submit laps, and you can submit all your data so that others can see it. You can also submit each individual session from the session summary page. So, Sai, if you want to find my data, just search for my name, Rains44. Oop. I don't know why that happened. Let's try something else. Let's try Barber Motorsports Park. Type Barber Motorsports Park, tap that, and now you're going to see the top times at Barber. Just give it a second. So now we're looking at the leaderboard for Barber. I can tap in and see these individual laps. I can see it organized by street tires, by R compound tires, and by slick tires. Very cool. You scroll down here, you're going to see me right here. I'm currently 14th at Barber. 138.64. So Sai, to download this session, just tap that lap time. And then you're going to see that data session. So you can scroll through my speed trace and see some of my speeds. Now, I didn't update this, so I'm not following my own advice, but this is actually a 2005 BMW M3 on Goodyear Supercar 3 200 tread wear street tires. Sai, there will be, it'll say save to my data right here for Lap Timer Plus subscribers. You have to be a Lap Timer Plus subscriber to save data off the preview. So any public data, any data that a user has said, I'll share this to preview, you can download. The reason I can't download this is because it's my data. So if I go into, let's see, let's just go into Dan DeSalle's session here. The app is a little behind, but follow that workflow. Crew View, tap the trophy, search the track you're interested in or the user's name that you're interested in, and tap into a data session, and you'll be able to save it. And so I know you're an annual Laptimer Plus subscriber. So you have to be an annual Laptimer Plus subscriber. That's $100 a year in order to save users' data. So if I want to save Dan's data, I can tap there and save it. Does that get you what you need, Si? I'm also happy to send you data. If you don't see my data on this part of the app, just shoot me an email, apex@apextrackcoach.com, message us on Facebook. I'm happy to share my data with you guys as an email or anything like that. But this is a much more powerful tool. Let's say I'm interested in Mid-Ohio. Oh, look, these are all the lap times that people submitted for Mid-Ohio, all the data. If I'm a Laptimer Plus subscriber, I can go in and save any of it. You can tap these and you'll see, the car, if that person put in, so like Scott Robertson right here, 2001 MX-5, Falcon Street Tire, that's an RT660. He did 38.12. I can save it to my data. Boom, saved. Now I can compare my Mid-Ohio data. Maybe I want to go to, I don't know, Laguna Seca. Well, yeah, look at all these folks from Laguna Seca. Got 9 records there that we can compare to. Maybe I'm interested in Sebring. See where I'm getting with this, guys? This is really powerful. You have to be a Laptimer Plus subscriber in order to save other users' data off this deal preview. If you don't want people to be able to see your data, then all you have to do is just don't submit it. That's fine. You don't have to. You're choosing to do this. I would highly recommend that you do, because then you're kind of like offering that to the community. Someone might get value out of sharing your data. Some of the app updates that are coming down the pipeline will enhance this feature. It'll make it way easier to get to this screen. It'll make it easier to share data with people. It'll make it easier to find data that's relevant to you. It'll make it easier to connect with other users. So like if you have a Porsche GT4 and you're at Autobahn and you found a guy who's really fast in their Porsche GT4 at Autobahn, you can save his data, send him a message. Hey, let's get together and hang out. I want to hear about how you went that fast, blah, blah, blah. All sorts of cool stuff there. Does that get you what you're looking for, son? Eric says, check out Waterford Hills. There's some Eric Penn data. So Eric, if you add your car to that, it'll appear on here. Need to get some more Waterford Hills data, I guess. Cool. All the tracks, every track on our user list here is going to have, every track on our list is going to have records. Some have more than others, but entering your tires properly are going to put you in the proper category. We categorize things by tires so that you can look at, it's too broad of a category to do cars. It would make things a little too small in some cases. Ignore my screen share. But if you have the proper car and the proper tire, you can find relevant data. All right, guys, anyone else have any more questions for me? It's been over an hour. I'm going to hop off. Cool. Those of you who asked questions on Facebook, I didn't see any of them. I apologize. I will save this video to YouTube and I'll email it out to all 53 people who are registered. But I've noticed when we do free webinars, if people sign up, it's like more than half the people don't come. If it's a paid webinar, everybody's always there, right? It's funny how that works. Welcome, Ben. No problem. Ennis, there will be a recording. I think I already answered that. Tim, you're welcome. All right, guys. Have a great Friday. Good to see everybody. Safe travels. Hope you're going to the track soon.